the office.
Bop Insecticide, preferred for its proven performance. Bop's fast-acting, long-lasting. Bop stops both flying and crawling insects. Get serious. Get Bop.
Like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/ramsupermarket. Follow us on Twitter, www.twitter.com/ramsupermarket. And subscribe to us on YouTube, www.youtube.com/ramsupermarket.
Well, hi there, very good morning to you. Time to welcome you now to Voices on Win FM 98.9. And today's edition of Voices comes your way with the very best wishes of Rams, the good food people.
Looking well dapper, stepping out tonight with Ramona and Sasha. Run to the fridge for me secret trick. 2 buckle of Magnum, now everything's set. HB when me under me Magnum, all 2 or 3. Nicky a buckle to me, granddaddy, cause later on tonight he might expect a lady. You want the energy for do the things that you do. Drop in the Magnum with the vigor tank too. Ladies, give you the vibe, bit more quick, and all them on them. Yeah, that's strong extra lift. Magnum tonic wine, energy when you need it.
Like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/ramsupermarket. Follow us on Twitter, www.twitter.com/ramsupermarket. And subscribe to us on YouTube, www.youtube.com/ramsupermarket.
Well, a very good morning to you once again, and of course we're happy to be in your company for another edition of Voices on Win FM 98.9. We want to begin our program first of all by offering our condolences to the family and friends of Mr. Richard Keynes. We learned that Mr. Keynes passed, and of course we'll be having some time during the course of the morning to pay tribute to Mr. Keynes. We'll have hopefully a comment from the leader of the People's Action Movement, Mr. Sean Richards. And, of course, we'll be speaking to Mr. Astafan, Mr. Dwight Astafan, a close friend of Mr. Keynes as well on the program a bit later on. But we begin, first of all, by saying a very good morning to Ms. Vesta Southwell. Ms. Southwell, good morning to you.
Good morning, and good morning to everyone.
Well, it's good to have you aboard. When I did invite you to come on the program, we didn't know we'd be having this news. Since then, we've had the passing of Mr. Omax Gardner, who is a well-respected accountant in St. Kitts and Nevis, and then we heard the news of Mr. Owen Arthur, a renowned politician, a leader of Barbados, and considered even a Caribbean leader. And then we've now heard of Mr. Keynes, a former minister in the People's Action Movement, government, a successful businessman, a mentor to some, an advisor to many, and of course a strong supporter of the Team Unity administration. He's also part of the Operation Rescue in the formative years and spent many a year on Win FM doing commentaries being a part of our discussions, weighing in on issues, calling in. Just recently, he was trying to get through to me to talk about LIAT, and I returned the call, but I wasn't able to bring him up on the air. He was not hearing me very clearly at the time, but always very robust in his point of view, always willing to engage, and unafraid to be blunt. That's my memory of Mr. Keynes, who I only met later in his life. But I wanted to get an update as I try to reach someone to pay tribute to Mr. Keynes. I wanted to just get an update from you. Ms. Southwell, of course, is the communication officer of the National Emergency Management Agency. I may have the title wrong, but I know she may be the communications manager and no longer the officer. You know, these things change, right? But I've known Ms. Southwell for quite a number of years. She's a consummate professional. She has lots of credentials in communications, lots of experience in this sort of communication, trying to explain sometimes thorny and complex issues in language that every man can understand. Me too, right? So I'm glad to have you here. I want to get an update from you on any pertinent issue with hurricane preparedness that you'd like to share with the public. And even as you speak, I'll be trying to reach out to see if I can get Mr. Richards on the line as well, and then we'll continue our conversation and try to balance both things on the program. A tribute to Mr. Keynes as well as a discussion on hurricane preparedness. So thank you for being here, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you once again for the opportunity to present at this time. As everyone, I am sure, knows, we are smack dab in the middle of the Atlantic hurricane season for 2020. No shortage of hindrances and challenges associated with our preparedness for this event or this period. However, forward we must go. And of course, the National Emergency Operations, I am in COVID-19 management briefing mode apparently. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, is of course getting ready and in a constant state of preparedness actually, because we have been activated very early on this year in the management of the COVID-19, as I alluded to. However, we are now in the hurricane season and we are trying to see how we can marry our preparedness activities, our management of the season in an environment that is rife with this infection, this coronavirus. So currently, the Atlantic is heating up, as we all may recognize. We are approaching the peak of the season, which is somewhere between the middle to the end of August, towards the end of September. Traditionally, that is when most of the most destructive systems take place, and they are appearing more frequently. So we tend to try to get persons at least to be in a consistent state of readiness for any eventuality. On the side of caution, we say, because as we are now monitoring the Atlantic, there are systems that are swirling out there, but the one that we are most concerned with is the potential Isaias. Isaias. I have been practicing to pronounce this name, Isaias. This is the name that will be given once the system that is currently headed towards us becomes a tropical storm. And this is anticipated perhaps sometime today, tomorrow. Now, as this system is approaching us, there are some challenges to it. And we are told by the experts that it may pass us as a tropical depression or a tropical storm. However, like my colleague Elmer Burke, the Senior Met Officer at St. Kitts Meteorological Services, always says to us, do not get concerned with whether it's a Category 1, a Category 2, a tropical depression, or a storm, because any system can become destructive if you are vulnerable. So for instance, if there is a lot of rain and you're having challenges because you live in a vulnerable area to flooding, you will be perhaps looking at this with a keener eye than someone who lives in higher ground than yourself and so on. So we want all of us to be in a good state of readiness so that we may all be protected and resilient ongoing, as the NDC, Abdia Samuel likes to say. He wants this to become a more resilient nation, which simply means that no matter what is thrown at us, we will be in a good position, good standing to manage it. So, here we are.
Yes, indeed. Here we are. That's a very succinct way of putting it. And I'll be right back with you in a moment. As I did explain early on, we're trying to reach the Deputy Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, the leader of the People's Action Movement, and he's kindly consented to give us a comment, a tribute to the late Richard Keynes. Sure. And so we'll pause our discussions on the hurricane preparedness now to hear from Mr. Richards. A very good morning to you, Mr. Richards.
Good morning, Dr. Son. Good morning to all listeners of WinFM.
Well, sir, thank you very much for taking our call this morning. Much appreciated. We wanted to hear from you as the leader of the People's Action Movement, as someone who would have known Mr. Keynes very, very well as a younger man. I know you're still young, but as a younger man. And we wanted to get your perspective and your thoughts at this time about Mr. Keynes.
Well, firstly, let me take the opportunity to extend condolences to the family members of the late Richard Keynes. As you have said, Richard is a gentleman I would have known for quite a number of years. As a matter of fact, it was just Sunday afternoon that I visited him and recognized that indeed he didn't appear to have much longer to go. Richard's life is one that is difficult to sum up, because Richard would have contributed to so many things here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, Richard has been a husband, he has been a father, he has been a family member to those who he had in that particular circle. However, as most persons would know, Richard was also a founding member of the People's Action Movement. When you consider the fact that the People's Action Movement began in 1965 and Richard probably was in his 80s, it means that Richard, at the age of 30-something, was one of the founding members of the second longest political party here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I don't suppose it could have been easy back then to be a founding member of a political party, taking into consideration how politics operate within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. However, Richard felt a conviction in terms of being a founding member of the People's Action Movement, and he stuck to it up until he died. Richard was one you could have called upon within PAM to contribute to just about anything, and so long as he had the resources to do so, he never faltered in offering his assistance. You go by Richard and you sit down and you get a lesson in history, because he knew so many things, not just about the politics here in St. Kitts and Nevis, but about the general development of St. Kitts and Nevis. He was able to refer you to old newspapers, to pictures, etc. He told you about different things he had been able to accomplish, different things he had witnessed. And so often we had said to Richard, you need to write a book and document many of these things. He would have told you about his travels with the former Prime Minister, Sir Kennedy, and how they were able to accomplish many of things. Richard, of course, served during Sir Kennedy's administration as a junior Minister of Finance. At that point in time, St. Kitts was credited with having the best economic growth within Latin America and the Caribbean. So that Richard would have made his own contribution towards that. Richard appeared on WinFM, whether it was political commentary, social commentary, and again, that would have added to the development of St. Kitts and Nevis, because the media has a role to play in terms of our own democracy. And Richard made his contribution towards that. Richard supported many different organizations. I think, for example, the administrative professionals. It took Richard as an honorary member because of the kind of support that he gave to that particular organization. He was a businessman. Most persons, again, might know of his business venture there on Princes Street. And prior to that, he worked as a mechanic. He was a young mechanic, and he would have given you details of him being a mechanic. What I probably will say in closing is that Richard represents an example to so many young people here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. This is a gentleman who came from very, very humble beginnings. I think he grew up in Debe, in some rural part on that side of the island, but he rose to success in so many different ways. Never elected as a politician, yes, but was able to serve as a junior minister of finance and did a good job at it. He was a successful businessman. As I said, he would have contributed to many organizations. He was somebody you could call upon in terms of being a historian. He came on the radio, he gave us his opinion, he sat down with persons, he gave of his time, he gave of his opinion. Even up until just a few weeks ago, Richard still remained quite active, and one has to admire him for that. Because here is someone who knew that he was terminally ill. But in terms of giving support to his political party, he was basically there until the end. When I had my own church service a few weeks ago in Sandy Point, Richard attended the church service. When we had the swearing-in ceremonies for the ministers of government, Richard was there. Even the victory motorcade, Richard's presence was felt at the victory motorcade because he participated in it. And so, again, even though he would have known that he was on his, what we would say, final days, that didn't allow him from continuing to live life and especially to give support to the party that he founded.
Well, Mr. Richards, I want to thank you very much for paying tribute publicly to Mr. Keynes. And, of course, you mentioned his records, and I will say, I know you're a very busy man, so I'm not going to keep you much longer on the phone, but I can say to you that from my recollection, I had the privilege of visiting his home at least once or twice, and he has some records in that house there that I think may serve the nation well. He has lots of recordings and lots of material that perhaps may find a good place in the archives. I do hope that Mr. Richards, as I extend condolences to you and the members of the People's Action Movement, that some consideration will be given to perhaps getting that material and storing it for posterity.
And it is a good thing that you made that point, because you just brought back to my own memory that just last week, the National Museum, National Trust, started this exhibition in honor of Sir Kennedy. And Willis Percival, a very good friend of Richard, would have said during that ceremony that she was able to go by Richard's home and go through his albums and get quite a number of pictures that one would see now on display as part of that exhibition which has been mounted in honor of Sir Kennedy. In regards to the records and them becoming, whether it is part of the National Archives, etc., that of course would have to come with permission from his children. They would now become the benefactors of his assets, and so perhaps that is a conversation that can be had with them to see what they may be willing to give up for such an undertaking to become feasible.
Well, Deputy Prime Minister, we thank you very much for your time, sir, and we wish you a pleasant day today. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. And again, condolences to the family on my own behalf and on behalf of the People's Action Movement. I do believe that Richard served the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis extremely well, and we owe his family in particular a debt of gratitude for allowing him to serve in such a capacity.
Thank you very much, sir. The Deputy Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Mr. Sean Richards, paying tribute to Mr. Richard Keynes, a man known to almost everyone in St. Kitts and Nevis, always very approachable, always very jovial but stern. And if you crossed him, you'd know. He will let you know that you crossed him. But yes, so thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister. You listen to Voices on Win FM 90.9. We have with us Ms. Vesta Southwell, and she's talking about hurricane preparedness. And, I'm going to ask, when we come back from hearing from our partner, Rams, I'm going to ask Ms. Southwell about some advice on personal responsibility. I'm going to break it down this way. Personal responsibility may be what you can do in your home, in your own yard, but you may have to keep an eye on that neighbor as well.
Buster, roll it up, need the thirst quencher in my cup. If you have one, hold it up and say, pass the brother colors in my life. Refreshing and nice, and I drink that what we like, but stand you full of vibes, living for the color, and a black and white. We do what we like, we live to enjoy life. Buster, pour it up, different flavor, load it up. If you have one, hold it up and say, pass the brother colors in my life.
Yes, indeed. A very good morning to you once again. You're on Voices on Win FM 98.9. And, of course, I have my technician, Mr. Trent Sargent, here. It's keeping things live and lively. And we are www.win.fed. Win Media SKN? Yes, man. I'm working on this, I need some coffee. www.winmediaskn.com. You go there, you get all the very latest. We're on YouTube, on Facebook. The game is changing, man. Mr. Analog Clive Bacchus is having to make adjustments to digital, man. I'm getting, I understand Facebook is not a lotion or a soap. It's something you look at, So I'm learning as we go. So we're going to go to Ms. Southwell now, and I did promise to try to get Mr. Astafan on the line as well. So we'll talk to Ms. Southwell for a bit while I try to raise Mr. Astafan, see if he's available for a quick comment, a tribute actually, not a comment, on Mr. Keynes, his very good friend. But as we speak about preparedness, everybody wants to look at the macro level, like what is the government doing, what is NEMA doing and all that. But I want to just ask you a bit about personal responsibility, like taking stock of perhaps what you may need and what you may be able to afford or not afford, but what if you actually know what you need. And of course, it's not just about you. It's like COVID. COVID is not just about you. It's about what other people might be doing close to you. So your neighbor, maybe someone you may want to keep an eye on in terms of how they're preparing as well, and may have to have some level of a community approach for the benefit of all. But your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Bacchus. Before I go there, please permit me to add my condolences to the mix. I, of course, would have known Mr. Keynes as well. One thing I wanted to share that I observed, he started walking some years ago for exercise. And I found it unique that he was one of the few persons who always had a transistor radio with him. He's one of two persons who I know believe in having that little radio that we describe in terms of preparedness for the hurricane season as an asset. Having a radio and extra batteries is always part of our list of items that persons might find useful. And I just thought it was quite unique that just Mr. Keynes and another gentleman named Robert Kelly, who was a former director of the tourism office in New York. I'm sure you would remember him.
Yes.
He always came home and had his transistor radio and would take long walks, similar to Mr. Keynes. But to speak about personal responsibility during an event, it's extremely important because even those of us who have lots of materials, lots of things, are able to support ourselves well, during an event often need assistance from a neighbor or a friendly stranger. So we can do well by getting into the habit of performing those duties of civic responsibility, ensuring that if I am in good stead, perhaps I can share something with a neighbor or even someone who lives a little further afield who might need some type of assistance. It speaks to even the policies related to our sheltering. In the past, we would have advised persons before accessing a government shelter to prepare to engage in a buddy system with a family member within your community or a neighbor. Now, this is posing to be a challenge in our current environment with COVID-19 at our backs and so on. However, it is still a good way to live among your neighbors and your community and so on, to share whatever resources you may have with persons who are in need. One of the things that we do from the NEMA is we provide a tree pruning service during times like these where tree branches and limbs may become missiles, may damage property of your neighbor, even yourself. So we have been providing a service in association with the Parks and Beaches unit, where we try to get persons to call in with their challenges with any tree that might have a potential to impact your home or your property or the property of your neighbors or so on, so that we can see how we can assist you in pruning those trees. Now, persons within communities, private persons or persons with small businesses may also have access to chainsaws or tree cutting equipment, and we're asking you to provide that service to your neighbors if you are in a position so to do.
All right, thank you very much. We continue in the Southwell in just a moment. We have Mr. Dwyer Astafan on the line. Mr. Astafan, of course, of Operation Rescue, much more than that too, former National Security Minister, served for many a year as a senior government official, and then after retiring from public life, did start a social activist campaign, Operation Rescue, among other things. So, Mr. Astafan, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Backus. Good morning to your listeners.
Well, good to have you aboard. I have someone here who you might know. Her name is Miss Vesta Southwell. She is from...
oh, that's my baby sister, man.
Hi, Mr. Astafan.
Hi, Dick.
So I know it's a very somber moment as one recollects on the life and times of Richard Keynes. But I had to stick that in because in the midst of sadness, one has to still have moments of reflecting on the good times. And I wanted to get from you your thoughts on Mr. Keynes, the life and legacy of the man.
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. And secondly, and very importantly, I want to extend my condolences to Richard's large family and loved ones, large group of loved ones. He had many people who loved him. Richard, we have a very interesting history. I knew Richard from the time I was a little boy. He had his mechanic shop just around the corner, where he is now, and I lived at the bottom of Church Street. So I would pass here almost daily, and his garage was always open, from early in the morning until often late in the night. And he worked very hard, he worked long hours, and he built himself up into the leader in that sector in the country. Of course, he was a founder of PAM and a proud member of PAM and very loyal to his party. He also got the opportunity to serve at the highest level of cabinet as a junior minister of finance, and he served firmly and, in my view, served his country well. Now, when I started renting cars as a youngster, it was him who I used to rent cars from. So I would go across here and I would have little chats with him and pick up little tidbits from him on different things in life, relationships, work, and so forth. But those shall remain between him and me, and we'll discuss them when I join him on the other side, whenever God is ready for me. So around 2011, Clive and Vicky, I was walking along Princess Street. By that time, it had been 3 years since I'd left the Douglas cabinet, and I was taking up my social activism, questioning what the Douglas government was doing and expressing my dissatisfaction and so forth. And on a whim, I said, let me go inside and speak to Richard. I didn't really know what I was going to say to him. And I said to him, Richard, your party can't win the government on its own. All right? In order to get back into government, like you did in 1980, you're going to have to team up with people. and let us form a group of activists, and let us have public meetings and raise the level of public awareness and that sort of thing, and agitate and that sort of thing. And to my pleasant surprise, and very quickly, Richard said, great idea, let's do it. Remember, himself and Washi and Wally Atherton and some other people had been having Friday afternoon meetings at Bank Street prior to that. So we had our first meeting at Greenland Park. We had a large turnout. The police special branch estimated it to be 1,400, which is large for a public meeting. We had a series of public meetings on the streets all the time, Bank Street, Molyneux, Keyon, Old Road, all over the place. And, of course, the operating room on your radio station, which I think we started around 2011 or so, every Tuesday night. And we agitated and agitated. And we, I believe, in fairness and in accuracy of reporting, were the precursor, the forerunner of community. Because when we were out there on the battlefield, none of the other political parties, because we were clearly not a political party, not then or not intended to be, nobody else was on the battlefield. So we were carrying it quite really. And we encouraged the formation of community, and indeed played significant roles in bringing community together. And so Richard and I, again, I was pleasantly surprised when he had his 80th birthday. He had about 5 speakers, and he invited me to be one of them, and I felt especially honored to be included in that group. That to me was a signal that we really had cemented a relationship, and coming between two men who had come from two different political backgrounds, to me was a signal to the country that we really need to, and we can unite, and it's the best thing to do. So, about Richard the person, a hard worker, a good listener, very patient, certainly a team player, extremely loyal, absolutely loyal to his party, very generous man, regardless of your political persuasion, and he loaned people money, and use the word loan in parentheses, sometimes expecting to get repaid, very often never getting repaid, and often repeating loans to people who had never repaid him. He was a generous man. Served his country well, and I believe that he will have left a very positive and powerful legacy for young men. Come up, get a trade, get a profession, work hard, work smart. Richard began life as a poor boy in Vietnam. And I think his life story is one that can be used as a model for our young people to understand that beginning in poverty doesn't mean that you have to end in poverty. And deprivation does not mean depravity. Richard is a good messenger for all of those good things. And I thank God for having had the opportunity to share time with Richard. And I thank Richard for counting me among his friends. And I wish his soul its deserved eternal rest.
Well, I want to thank you very much for those words and that tribute, Mr. Astaphan. Of course, I have a question to pose to you, you know. I've been asking you, when I've asked Mr. Keynes as well on separate occasions, where's that book? Mr. Astaphan, where's that book?
Which book?
The book that you're supposed to write.
Clive, we're going to read it. 9 people?
And also, the subset to the question would be, I guess you as well would have lots of records, lots of material, whether audio, whether pictorial. What do you plan to do with these things? I'm not saying you're going anywhere now, you know. That's not where I'm going with this.
No.
Okay.
I'm 72.
Yes.
I'm in the departure lounge, you know, regardless of how long it takes. I'm in the departure lounge.
Yes.
I'm closer to the tomb than the womb. We have to be realistic about it.
Yes.
To be honest, I started a book, and I'm about halfway, but I kind of ran into a brick wall maybe a year and a half ago, and I've not been motivated to continue. Maybe Richard's passing will cause me to reflect and maybe continue and finish. And if that does happen, then I'll credit him with having given me some inspiration, because he has been a source of guidance and inspiration to me, and I really sincerely appreciate the friendship that we had. So this might do it. Again, I wouldn't expect large readership, but if anybody has to do any research on our times in public life, then maybe our books can be used as references for that purpose, if nothing else.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asafan, sir. Thank you for your time, and do have a pleasant listen.
All the best.
All the best to you,
Take
sir.
care of my little sister, eh?
Oh, yes, she's taking care of me.
Okay, great.
All right, thanks. All right, so that's Mr. Dwight Astafan, former Minister of Government, veteran politician, social activist, sportsman, and we can go on and on. Operation Rescue, Mr. Astafan, of course, has made his contribution to St. Kitts and Nevis and continues to do so. But we are with Ms. Vesta Southwell of the National Emergency Management Agency, and we're doing two things at the same time. We're having a conversation about hurricane preparedness or disaster mitigation, depending on how you want to put it. And I did pose a question earlier on about personal responsibility, and I want now to just let Ms. Southwell make a presentation perhaps on, I know you were looking for volunteers. Perhaps we can talk a little bit about that and about those community centers, quote unquote, community centers or potential places for some relief in case there's a storm.
Thank you so much once again, Mr. Bacchus. I'm happy to speak about our ongoing volunteer recruitment drive. It was, I think, about 2 weeks ago when the National Disaster Coordinator, Abdia Samuel, noted on one of our COVID-19 briefings that we were in search of volunteers. I recall perhaps last year we held a meeting with some persons, and the view was expressed that St. Kitts people do not like to volunteer. I was offended because, first of all, it's not feasible to lump a group of people into one characteristic, in my view. So even if many persons in St. Kitts and Nevis do not like to volunteer, I don't think that the speakers knew all of the persons in St. Kitts and Nevis to make that judgment. But anyway, beyond that, I still had some hope that in the event that there was a need, that persons would rise up to assist. I'm going to mention something that meant a lot to me in terms of how we can get together. In, I think around 98 or 99, we had a flood. Do you remember, Mr. Bacchus, where there were some containers, I think, on the Bay Road, and
yes.
there was the College Street gut.
I remember that was a sight to behold. I remember seeing Michael King and a number of other people who are no longer in St. Kitts, and the government responding, that whole area by Social Security, going back by Rams.
That's exactly what I was going
yes.
heading towards. I was working at tourism at that time. Of course, Dwight Astafan was the minister, and you were one of our staunchest media stakeholders. And I remember we had been working tirelessly down at tourism and down the Pelican Mall, scrubbing, and the mud line for the level to which we were impacted in the office was, I would say, about 4 feet from the ground. So we had our computers, our CPUs on the ground and so on, and our monitors on the desks, and all of the CPUs were destroyed. I remember it very well. But what I recall most was when we were done, I remember the sun was beginning to set. It was close to 5 p.m., and we were exhausted. We were laying down in the gazebo back and really just, talking among ourselves. And then we looked up. I'm getting goose pimples as I speak. We looked up the road, up 4th Street, through the Treasury opening. And it seemed like the entire population of St. Kitts was headed towards us with bars brooms and coconut brooms and just cleaning the utensils, because if you recall, there was to be a cruise ship visiting on the Thursday of that week.
Yes, indeed.
And there was a call put out for persons to come out and to stand shoulder to shoulder with all of us. And there were ministers of government, there were PSs, like you say, business people, all in boots and everything, working shoulder to shoulder. That is what we know our St. Kitts and Nevis residents to be like. That is our character.
Well said, well said.
I don't think that we should have to wait for a disaster for us to come together. But I will leave all of these challenges and issues to the competent authorities to work out. Dealing with disasters, I'm saying to you that all need happen is that a call need to be put out. Let's be really, let's make the call meaningful, not punitive. We want persons to come out and volunteer, no matter who you are, no matter who you support, because disasters do not discriminate. They will come to your house same way that they will come to mine. So the only way that we can tackle all of this together, and I believe that we should, COVID-19, the management of that, should be the experience that we refer to going forward. We need all to come together. And when Mr. Samuel put out the call for the volunteers, I can stand here today and tell you that not a day has gone by since where persons have not been calling in to volunteer. So right now, what is this helping us to do? It's not too late, because volunteers operate year-round. We are in a comprehensive disaster management strategy. That means that we are not only active during the hurricane season. We address the impact of all potential hazards throughout the entire year. So volunteers are very much needed. And of course, there are persons who have been volunteering for many, many years. Some persons are tired with the system and they just want a much needed rest. And they should be allowed to take that rest if they so desire. But we want to keep building the volunteer corps to a level where it is almost seamless. Something happens, of course, we have a district's coordinator residing at the NEMA, and her name is Miss Bereese Williams. She's a person who coordinates all of the activities for the NEMA district volunteers. But it's not her job alone, it's the job of every single volunteer to ensure that everything and anything is being done to protect the communities where they serve. So I'm thankful that you brought that up, because I was taking some notes, some talking points, and I neglected to note that one, which to me is critically important. Volunteers, and there was something else.
I was asking about volunteers and how do you go about prepping quote-unquote community centers. I'm not just using the term, which could apply not only to a genuine community center, but something that we could convert it into offering refuge to the community. Okay,
so AKA shelters.
Shelters, one word, isn't it?
It is an extremely important word, and it's going to be a catchphrase throughout the season, I imagine, just because, again, where we are at currently in terms of managing COVID-19, because you would agree that the management of COVID-19 will impact our sheltering procedures. It will impact them. But let me start here. There is a housing and shelter committee. And among this committee, which is convened by Mr. Gary Knight, this committee has among its membership NEMA district volunteers, officers from NEMA specifically, and some other stakeholders within the communities. And what do? They go around and they inspect all potential shelters. That includes community centers and so on. So over time, they have been going and doing this every year. And again, they are not hurricane shelters, they are emergency shelters. So any emergency that we are in, the shelters will be used as needed. So the group of persons go around and they inspect the shelters, they make arrangements for repairs and retrofitting to be done. They are re-inspected, they are added to a list. This list is compiled and shared with the NEMA, who forwards it to Cabinet. It must be approved by Cabinet for the shelters to be in use. However, in the absence of a Cabinet approval, decisions will be taken on a case-by-case basis. For instance, if the shelters are not approved at this moment and there is an impact, a need for shelters arises, then a decision can be taken that is comprehensive because we have access to all of the stakeholders who are in who are part of the process of approving the shelters.
No.
Now, just let me,
Sure.
if I might, one thing, as I think I kind of alluded to it earlier, but because of COVID-19, once again, the Housing and Shelter Committee has met, and in fact, there are some activities that are currently being planned. There is to be a Shelter Awareness Week shortly. This week will be used to share with persons, to expose to the communities what the sheltering process entails, so that when you come to the door, you know what to expect. Because it is not just about knocking on a door and entering and being allowed to shelter. In this COVID-19 environment, we have to ensure that social distances is at least possible within the shelters, which might lead to a need to inspect and approve more additional shelters because the capacity would decrease in each one.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Vesta Southwell, Communications at NEMA. We'll open the phone lines now. If you have a question for Ms. Southwell, give us a call, 466-0989, 662-0989, 762-0989. Our overseas numbers are 0333-344-0065. Let me stop there because somebody's trying to get in. Call you on the air, and good morning to you.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, you're live on the radio.
I'd like to convey my condolences first to Richard King's family,
Yes.
letting them know that God is in control and He's doing best. I am putting in for, as I heard I was talking about assistance in getting cheese food. I like to put in my name to get some assistance in getting cheese in my yard soon. Please, Sister Southwell, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. I couldn't hear you very clearly, but
Could you repeat that? I think there's a little bit of a background noise in the moment. Just repeat it again.
766-0136.
766-0136?
0136, yeah.
All right, great. I know Ms. Southwell will make contact with you. She's very good like that.
what's your name?
Dana Robbins. If you see me, you know me, I normally used to sell nuts to you, Miss Southwell.
I'm sure I enjoyed them.
Yes.
So, Miss Rollins?
So thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
my
call
mother
you and I'll get in touch with you and make arrangements for the assistance.
All right, thank you very much for calling. And you'll certainly hear from Ms. Southwell. And thank you very much for giving us a call in the program. Let's hear from our partners. We come back. We'll take your calls.
Mustn't forget the bop.
I see you like bop too.
If I'm cleaning the garage, I need Bop.
One bop for the home and one for the office.
Bop insecticide, preferred for its proven performance. Bop's fast-acting, long-lasting. Bop stops both flying and crawling insects. Get serious. Get Bop.
Like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/ramsupermarket. Follow us on Twitter, www.twitter.com/ramsupermarket. And subscribe to us on YouTube, www.youtube.com/ramsupermarket.
Right, good morning. You're live. Oh, sorry, we missed you. Do call back, 466-0989, 662-0989, 762-0989. We're standing by for your calls. We also have 718-285-6984. We go to the phone lines now. Call you live and on the air. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I want to send condolences also to Mr. Richard King's family. My question is to Ms. Southwell. If someone don't have access to computer or email, could there be a volunteer?
Of course.
Can I have the number?
For NEMA?
Yes, please.
466-5100. Ask to speak to Miss Williams.
466?
5100.
5100. I have to speak to Miss who?
Miss Williams. Also, if you, the district communities are divided along the constituency boundaries, the electoral constituency boundaries. So constituency 1 is district 1 and so on. So if you know which district you live in, share that information with Miss Williams, because there is already a team, a management team in place in all of the 8 districts in St. Kitts, and so she might refer you to the manager for your district, because you would want to volunteer within the district where you live, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so if you're volunteering in the district where you live, then there is a team already in place, and the district manager will be able to contact you, and you have lots of opportunities that a lot of people may not know. You'll be have access to lots of training. You can become a shelter manager, and you get first aid training from some of our stakeholders, including the Red Cross. So there are lots of benefits to the individual who becomes a volunteer that we can never take away from you, even after you cease to volunteer.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's a beautiful pitch, Ms. Southwell. I must commend you. I'm going to have to borrow that, that, when you volunteer, you do something, you gain knowledge and skill sets. That's something we tend to underestimate and perhaps don't talk enough about. So I like the way you put that.
Yes.
Let's go back to the phone lines. Call you live and on the air, and good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bacchus.
Yes, sir. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Ms. Southwell.
Good morning.
Ms. Southwell, how you're speaking about assistant concerning cutting down trees. I personally like to get some trees cut down close to my house.
Okay. You want to give me your name and your number, or you want to call the agency?
Well, my number is, my name is Mr. Keynes, Dennis Keynes, Power Extension. My number is 465-9594.
465-9594?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
And thank you very much, Mr. Keynes. Thanks for calling. This raises a question. Communications, which is your field, and how do you deal with it these days? There's some people who are listening to radio, and they don't go online. They're not online. So those of us who assume that if you put something on Facebook, everybody see it, you better think again. There are not a bunch of people who are always on their handset, and if you have something on radio, they're not listening to that. They need to find it on the phone. But the radio could be on your phone as well, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you manage the communication for the different demographics in these modern times?
It's challenging, as I'm sure you recognize. We have to try to communicate with all of those persons that you have just described. We cannot just, in the past, we would go on ZIZ TV and ZIZ radio. You know this. And so we had to learn very quickly that we have to embrace all forms of media in able to reach the most persons. Because at the end of the day, it's our loss. It really, persons would suffer, yes, and that is something that we do not want to experience as a management agency. However, I could not sleep well if I know that I am putting information out and some of the more vulnerable persons do not have access to it because of A, B, or C. So I now have to engage in all of these things. And Clive, it's really difficult because at my age, learning this new technology is not easy all of the time.
Welcome to my world. Let's go back to the phone lines. Have a caller. Call your life. Oh, man. Sorry. Do call back, caller. Perhaps I was talking too much. 4660989.
Just stop me.
66. No. What you're saying we want to hear. I think I'm the culprit. 4660989, 6620989, 7620989. And the phones are lighting up again. Let's go back again. Call you live and on the air. And good morning to you.
Good morning,
good morning.
Mr. Bacchus.
Yes, sir. Good morning to you.
And hi to Mr. Southwell there. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Bacchus, I'm calling on behalf of the passing of my very dear friend, Mr. Richard Keynes. I want to say, Mr. Bacchus, to his family, his entire family, my heartfelt and sincere condolence to the entire family of Mr. Richard Keynes. We entered the People's Action Movement together. He's a founder, I'm a founding member. And he's, like Dwyer said, his passing is very hurtful.
Is this
I'm
Mrs.
very emotional.
Is this Mrs. Spencer?
Because I know him as a personal friend.
Is this Mrs. Spencer I'm speaking to?
Huh?
Is this Mr. Spencer I'm speaking with?
No, this is not Irish.
Oh, okay, yes, okay. Oh, yes. Please continue.
You know, we go way, way back, Mr. Bacchus, and I wish his family the best going forward. And may God bless them and embrace them to face the challenges of the future. First, I want to say what a wonderful job you've been doing over the years for NEMA and during the hurricane emergency situation that embraces us year after year. Keep up the good work, my dear. Talk to you another time. I'm very emotional on the passing of Mr. Keynes. God bless. Bye-bye.
Understood.
And God bless and goodbye, and our condolences to you as well, sir. I know you've offered condolences to Mr. Keynes' family, but I think we want to offer to you our condolences as well because, as you said, you were very close to Mr. Keynes, so I know you're grieving at the moment, and we want to thank you. And for your words of encouragement to Ms. Southwell, I want to join you and say that Ms. Southwell, in my opinion, is perhaps one of our unsung heroes. She quietly gets about her business, but she's a consummate professional. Now, we're heading up to news time, so we're going to have to wrap our conversations today. And I want to wrap on the same issue of communications that you mentioned, because as you know and I know, communications flow in two directions. You have something to say, and the old saying that there's a reason why you have one mouth and two ears applied to communication. You have to listen as well. And very often, Twice as much. Very often when you have a message, you have to also receive a message. So
yes.
In the communication, when you actually can hear from the people in the communities, it really helps you to shape the best policies. Do you agree?
I do agree. And we have certainly put in certain things in place to accommodate that going forward. This is no longer going to be the writing of press releases, sending them out to media publishing them as is, and so on. We want to have feedback from the communities. So we are setting up systems currently, including hopefully a very powerful broadcast room there at NEMA, which would allow us to speak directly to communities in the event that there is an impact, an emergency ongoing. And it would take time to come to you, Mr. Bacchus, or to come to ZIZ, or to go physically to some of the radio stations to promote the message. We can stay at NEMA and link with all of our stakeholders in the media and get the message out to their consumers at once. And, as you have described, receive information from the community as well. So we are putting certain things like that in place. There is just no other way.
There's just no other way indeed. Any parting comment for today?
Of course. Now, I just want to, in the few seconds left, to just remind persons that NEMA, the office number is 466-5100. We have a NEMA SKN Facebook page. Our website is nema.kn. And we will be happy to facilitate any of your questions, any issues you're currently experiencing with the coming of the system in the Atlantic currently and the hurricane season at large. Please feel free to call us, get to know your district NEMA volunteers, and we can assist you even with that. So give us a call, and we'd love to engage you in terms of preparing you for the season.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Vesta Southwell. All the very best to you and your hard-working team as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was Vesta Southwell of NEMA on our program today. We thank her so much and thank the organization for allowing her to be here today. I want to thank as well the Deputy Prime Minister, Sean Richards, Mr. Dwight Astafan, former Government Minister of Operation Rescue, and all our callers for sharing their condolences with members of the family and relatives and sharing their memories of Mr. Keynes on today's edition, the first segment of Voices. And thanks once again to our sponsors, Rams. I'm Clive Bacchus. All the best.
Found the sound. 98.9 Win FM.
We now bring you the WinFM Headline News. The WinFM Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, Carib Brewery, CNC Trading.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world. Whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous, you can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air. We get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises, telephone number 466-9595.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tilly the wall with a low reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Delia Walwyn, people you can trust.
Without limits, happy and free. The skin you're in with no apology. The one to seize the day. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. With LLB. Live, love, be. Be who you know you can be. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. Angostura, lemon, lime, and bitters. Live, love, be.
The party is on for August Monday and Tuesday, and this time it is not a Culturama Committee production. Instead, the Nevis Island administration has jumped in to fill the void left by the cancellation of the Mega Cultural Festival, which was scheduled for August 3rd and 4th. Confirmation of the new Emancipation Holiday Weekend activities came from Chairman of the Culturama Committee, Antonio Abernathy Liburd, who recently told WIN that the committee did not get the necessary clearance from the NEOC on Nevis to stage the events.
The August Monday weekend will be celebrated on Nevis in a very special way. Last week, I would have made an announcement on WinFM that there will be no activities for the Culturama weekend. Culturama itself having been cancelled early in the year, a decision was taken not to stage any activities over the weekend. However, things have changed, and so the Nevis Island administration has decided that it will, in the absence of the Culturama celebrations, it will stage 2 days of activities in Charlestown, and those days will be Monday, August 3rd, and Tuesday, August 4th. Tuesday, August 4th now being declared as a public holiday.
Now that the party has returned, it will be done under strict new COVID-19 regulations that must be adhered to by the committee, according to the chairman.
All persons who are vending, who are selling, must be wearing masks, and we are also encouraging the patrons to wear their mask and to socially or physically distance themselves. When I had a virtual meeting with task force last night, they said 3 feet is acceptable. So once persons are spaced 3 feet apart, that would be acceptable. We are also making it mandatory that the vendors provide hand sanitizers for the patient, for the patrons rather, and also we are insisting that the vendors provide washing stations for their patrons.
As part of the activities, there will be no street jamming this time around.
We will be erecting a stage in the area of the D.R. Warwin Plaza, and we will have electronic bands, we'll have DJs playing on that stage, and we will be inviting vendors to come set up their tents, set up their vending stations, and make some monies over those 2 days. Now, the activity for Monday begins at 7 o'clock in the morning, where we'll have electronic bands, DJs, right up until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Then between 1 and 4, we will have cultural performances. So we will have the string band, we'll have the steel band, we'll have masquerades, we'll have clowns, we'll have mummies, we'll have mucker jumbies, anything that is cultural. Those would be performing between 1 and 4. And then from 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 10 o'clock in the evening, we will be going back with the electronic bands and the DJs. Same thing is going to happen on Tuesday, except that on Tuesday, the activity begins at 10 o'clock in the morning. So we'll have DJs from 10 in the morning right up until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Between 1 and 4, we'll have cultural performances. This time, the cultural performances will be coming from St. Kitts. The mummies and the actors, masquerades, clowns, they will be coming over from St. Kitts and partnering with our folklore groups on Nevis to provide entertainment throughout Charlestown between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock.
With many being in lockdown for several weeks, Library believes that citizens and residents on the island will welcome the move when it comes to being able to socialize.
Persons have been locked up at home under severe restrictions, curfews, lockdown days. Persons have been stressed, and persons have been clamoring. They have been asking, they have been begging, they have been pleading for some form of entertainment over the 2 days that we are now going to be having back.
He spoke to the benefits of hosting such an activity.
We decided that, hey, let's stage an activity, let's provide some entertainment, let people come out, lay down their hair, get rid of some of their stress, let the vendors come out, make some money, let the supermarkets make some money, let the wholesalers make some money, let the guest houses and the hotels make some money. Now, in terms of the hotels, my understanding is, as early as last weekend, Wally Beach Hotel was completely booked, and they are also completely booked for this coming Emancipation Day weekend. So it means that persons are coming over from St. Kitts and they are booking into these accommodations. I understand that the Hamilton, which offers accommodation as well, is virtually booked out for this coming weekend. And Golden Rock, they are open and they are reporting some bookings as well. So it's a way of kind of jump-starting the economy.
Mr. Liebert reiterated that the event is not a Culturama production.
There was an announcement, I understand, that was made when Tuesday was declared a public holiday, that has been done in commemoration of the virtual Culturama that we held. We will not be having a virtual Culturama. As a matter of fact, these activities that will be held over Monday and Tuesday would not have the name of Culturama affixed to them. They're not Culturama-related events. The Nevis Island administration is putting on these events. So the Culturama Committee is not involved in any way with the activities that are going to be staged this weekend. The Culturama Secretariat is involved because I've been tasked with the responsibility along with the CEO of the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation, the CEO of the Nevis Tourism Authority, Minister Troy Libert, who is actually the Minister of Education. We have been charged with putting these activities together on behalf of the Nevis Island administration for the emancipation of the weekend. So it has nothing, these activities have nothing about Culturama attached to it. The only thing about Culturama is attached to it is probably me, the executive director and the chairman of Culturama.
Chairman of the Nevis Culturama Committee, Antonia Abernathy Libert, speaking with WinFM Tuesday. Treating the coronavirus as a security threat rather than a pandemic has been one of the reasons for the slow spread of the COVID-19 in the region. So says Executive Director at the Caribbean Public Health Agency, Dr. Joy St. John, who was speaking on the opening day of a week-long regional security conference.
We are having cases, but still it is not as bad as it could have been. And why is this? Because CARFA manage this from a security perspective, help security to be specific. And as we are part of the security cluster, you will see this timeline, which shows that we have had a great interface with the different elements of the security sector, including the ministers. And we're going back again now that we are in what looks like our second wave beginning to start.
Dr. St. John, who spoke to the benefits of an all-hands-on-deck approach to dealing with the COVID-19 problem, also outlined the challenges facing the region because of the pandemic.
Despite the fact that there has been a common effort, and despite the fact that this has been an all-of-society approach, there are still some response challenges. And you will see bottom right, maintaining governance. And why should governance be something of interest to a public health institution? Because you have to be able to have leadership, not just at the CARICOM level, as the CARICOM heads have so ably displayed, but even within individual organizations. You must have people who know how to make things work, even in these COVID times.
The medical practitioner spoke to some of the new protocol recommendations for reopening of borders and intra-regional travel.
And so what we have done is develop a set of guidelines for safe reopening. This is in the background of standards of operation that we are working on through CrossQ, standards for the region. And you will see there are some specifics that have been added for the COVID-19 situation. On the right, voluntary self-reporting. There is a Tourism and Health Information System COVID-19 app and the Caribbean Travel Health Assurance Stamp for a healthier, safer facility. These are some specifics to the COVID-19 scenario. So remember I told you that the heads requested some requirements for moving safely. And these are them in a nutshell before you. You will notice on the left, we start off with this whole issue of negative COVID-19 tests. And in the Caribbean, the gold standard. And the only test right now that detects active disease is PCR. And so this whole issue of knowing your status as you move through the region is critical. And so there's the increased screening, the issues of social distancing, the wearing of facial coverings, masks, and staying at home if you're ill. And of course, these are all subject to the national guidelines, quarantine.
Executive Director at the Caribbean Public Health Agency, Dr. Joy St. John.
The University of the Virgin Islands has delayed the fall 2020 on-campus reopening due to the spike in the number of positive COVID-19 cases in the territory and the surge of coronavirus cases on the U.S. mainland. As a result, the U.S. Virgin Islands extended the territory's state of emergency declaration through September 9, earlier set to expire on July 11. Previously, according to the July 24 press release from the university, the fall 2020 and spring 2021 reopening was approved by the UVI Board of Trustees on June 20. Procedures for the university to resume in-person instruction were also approved, while utilizing a mixture of virtual and in-person instruction. On-campus living and work would have commenced with the integration of new safety protocols. UVI President Dr. David Hall stated, "It is with a sense of great disappointment that I announce that all instruction for fall be conducted virtually until such time that the local conditions improve." President Hall presented the executive committee with recommendations to delay the planned on-campus reopening after input from UVI's COVID-19 task force, cabinet, and other leaders, combined with a review of the circumstances and current climate of the public health crisis. President Hall went on to state, "This decision to delay is not being made lightly. At the heart of our decision is preserving the health and safety of our students, employees, and the public. On-campus lectures will still commence on August 17, while the lecturers and the new and returning students will have to adapt to a fully virtual mode of course instruction. New travel restrictions and quarantine protocols for traveling to the territory would also negatively impact the ability of international students to enter safely to commence the fall semester as planned. Additionally, on-campus residential housing would not be available to in-territory or out-of-territory students. The university remains open with staffers reporting to work while adhering to established COVID-19 safety guidelines. Meticulous campus public health practices are currently in effect, including hand hygiene, physical distancing, and heightened sanitation and cleaning protocols. Furthermore, symptom assessment, testing and/or temperature checks, and the use of face masks and approved facial coverings are mandatory requirements that must be maintained. The university continues to enhance safety in the work environment by installing protective barriers in high-traffic areas and many offices despite the current changes for the fall semester.
Gina Filippi, HTS News Force. The test results of 4 people who came into contact with a St. Lucia national who tested positive for COVID-19 in St. Vincent are pending. The individual was in proximity to a number of people before she departed for St. Vincent on July 19th. On July 24th, the young woman's loved ones and colleagues at a call center were tested and placed in quarantine. The Health Ministry has been trying to determine the source of the infection. On Monday, July 27th, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Sharon Belmar George revealed that most of the contacts tested negative for COVID-19.
The family, close friends, and work colleagues of the individual have been tested and placed in quarantine. None of the contacts of the individual, including family, friends, and employees, have developed symptoms. On Friday, July 24th, 2020, a total of 197 test results were received, and on Sunday, July 26, 2020, a total of 133 samples were also processed. The total of 330 results were all negative. These include the contacts of the case and other samples as per usual. Based on our review on the weekend, there are only 4 outstanding contacts to be tested today.
The CMO reminds the public that health and safety guidelines for businesses and buses are still in effect.
As we continue with the phased reopening of the country, the risk of introduction of COVID-19 is increased. We expect and we anticipate to manage cases. The public is advised that all of the protocols are still in place, including the reduced numbers for public transportation and protocols for private and public sector establishments. These also include the use of face masks in public and the maintenance of safe physical distancing from others.
Health officials employ St. Lucians to practice proper hygiene to curb the spread of the virus.
We continue to advise on the importance of maintaining the standard recommendations for infection prevention and control, which include regular hand washing with soap and water or alcohol-based hand sanitizer where soap and water may not be available, and also safe cough etiquette of covering your mouth with tissues when coughing and sneezing.
It may be too early to tell whether the contact's close friends and family members have contracted COVID-19. Symptoms of COVID-19 may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure to the virus. Gina Filippi, HTS News Force.
This is Al Jazeera.
We begin this news hour in Malaysia, where the former Prime Minister Najib Razak has been sentenced to 12 years in prison after being found guilty of corruption. He won't go straight to jail, though, and says he's appealing. This verdict is from the first of 5 trials Najib is facing, linked to the 1MDB scandal. He launched this state fund when he was Prime Minister in 2009.
We are always positive. We believe in our innocence. We believe that we have a strong case. But of course, we have to convince the judges. And we will do our best. Tan Sri Shafi'i will continue to lead the team. And he is very determined to get the outcome that we believe is only right for us.
Well, this case centred on the transfer of nearly $10 million into Najib's personal accounts. He's been convicted of an abuse of power, criminal breach of trust and money laundering. Officials seized a yacht as well as diamonds, jets and other luxury goods during the investigation. Najib's alleged to have stolen around $1 billion from the fund. Prosecutors have levelled 42 charges against him. Florence Louis joins us live from Kuala Lumpur. So a dramatic day in court there today in Kuala Lumpur. Florence, just take us through what happened.
That's right. Now, as you mentioned, this was a case that involved the transfer of $10 million into Najib's personal bank accounts from a company known as SRC International. This is a former subsidiary company of 1MDB. Now, the judge, in reaching his verdict, rejected Najib's argument that he had been tricked by financiers, including one who goes by the name of Joe Low. He's a Malaysian fugitive now on the run and in hiding somewhere, who is regarded by investigators as the mastermind in the corruption scandal of 1MDB. And the judge also described the argument, the defense argument, that Najib was led to believe that the $10 million in his personal bank account was part of a donation from Saudi Arabia as an elaborate but weak argument. Now, he sentenced Najib to 12 years, a maximum of 12 years in prison, and also 10 years in prison for the other charges. But the sentences are due to run concurrently. But as you mentioned, Najib will not have to go straight to prison because that the judge has also allowed a delay in carrying out of the sentencing.
In terms of the legal process that Najib has yet to go through, and also his wife, what do we think will happen next?
Well, with regards to Najib's case, in this particular case, now the appeals process can take years. There is a 2-tier appeal process in Malaysia, so he'll have to appeal to the Court of Appeal. Once he's exhausted that, if he's not happy with the verdict, he can still go on to appeal to the highest court in the land, the federal court. But then there are also these other cases against him. There are at least 2 other trials against him. And his wife is also facing corruption charges. So this is going to be a long, drawn-out legal process against Najib and his wife. Now, in the last couple of months, there has been some discontent. High-profile cases that have been dropped or settled. One case involved Najib's stepson, and another involved a political ally. So these cases will be looked at very closely, and people will be scrutinizing the results and also just how the cases are being conducted.
OK, Florence, good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Florence Louis, our correspondent there in KL.
This is the Carib Update News Service. I'm Wendy Chateau reporting. Lawyers up in arms over Grenada bill that they declare is unconstitutional. This is the big story we're tracking this hour on the AM edition of Newsbreak for Tuesday, July 28, 2020. Details to this and more straight ahead. Now for the details. A number of Grenada's top lawyers have joined a growing chorus that has blasted the now delayed government bill that the Keith Mitchell administration had hoped to bring before Parliament Wednesday. The bill has since been stood down because the government says it now realized that there should have been public consultation. The bill, which seeks to put a state of emergency in place for a year and significantly curtail people's rights and freedoms in government attempt to fight against COVID-19, has been described by critics as unconstitutional and unnecessary. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell has touted having such measures in place until a vaccine is found for the virus. The Grenada Bar Association suggested that the delay in bringing the bill to Parliament might be a tactic of the government, declaring that it would not participate in what it called any pappy show consultation, where the outcome is already determined. But Attorney General Darshan Ramdani said the now planned consultations will be meaningful.
I wish to assure members of the public that this will be a meaningful consultation process. Having already drafted a bill does not at all mean that we will not be prepared to listen to the comments, to listen to the concerns, to examine suggestions for amendments to that draft, amendments in various substantive way. We are prepared to be engaged in this process, as I said, in a meaningful manner.
But 5 of the country's top lawyers also called a press conference Monday saying the whole bill should be scrapped. Among those speaking out was the last Attorney General, Cajetan Hood. CARICOM Chairman Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has described the late former Prime Minister of Barbados, Owen Arthur, as a titan who was deeply committed to the deepening of the regional integration movement. Gonsalves, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, said in a statement that the region has lost a statesman and intellect of the highest quality. Arthur, 70, an economist, had been hospitalized earlier this month at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital after suffering heart-related complications. He led the Barbados Labour Party, BLP, to victory in the 1994 general election and won general elections again in 1999 and 2003. Gonsalves said that Arthur was the architect of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME, that allows for the free movement of goods, skills, labour and services across the 15-member grouping. Trinidad and Tobago's Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, has said a death threat has been made against a political leader. He was speaking on Monday at the police media briefing. He said that he could not identify the intended target at this time. Griffith said the incident was being investigated. He added that though political parties do not need permission to have walkabouts, they should still inform the police. This is Newsbreak from the Carib Update News Service. In more news, officials in Trinidad and Tobago say if schools cannot follow COVID-19 safety guidelines with a full school population, a shift system will be put in place for the next academic year. This was among guidelines in a health ministry document issued Monday. The cycle system proposed a 50% student capacity, which will mean creating 2 groups for each class who will go to school on alternate days. The Caymanian government says residents and visitors who want to leave the territory on Cayman Airways or chartered flights can now make travel arrangements directly with the carrier and no longer through Travel Time. Travel Time, which is run by the Ministry of Aviation, was established this month to manage outbound and inbound travel during the closure of both borders. Although Cayman's airport and seaports remain closed, the ministry said a growing number of people need to leave the islands for various reasons. The Cayman government says those who already applied to Travel Time for outbound travel to locations serviced by Cayman Airways can now make their own reservations. It says flight authorization must be granted by the Civil Aviation Authority for those who are contracting a charter service or traveling via private aircraft. A U.S. Coast Guard team reportedly seized almost 4,000 pounds of marijuana valued at nearly $7 million during an operation in the Caribbean Sea. The United States Southern Command says one of its ships was on routine patrol on Friday when the team spotted a go-fast vessel. It is reported that suspected drug smugglers aboard the vessel were seen throwing packages overboard. The U.S. patrol team recovered 708 bales of marijuana, totaling more than 3,900 pounds with an estimated value of $6.9 million US. The U.S. Southern Command said on April 1 it began enhanced counter-narcotics operations in the Western Hemisphere to disrupt the flow of drugs. These are some of the top stories from around the Caribbean this hour. This has been Newsbreak from the Carib Update News Service, the Caribbean's newsroom. Reporting this hour, I am Wendy Chateau.
That was the WinFM Headline News, brought to you by KDP Enterprises, Caribbean Alliance, Carib Brewery, CNC Trading, The Grange.
Without limits, happy and free. The skin you're in with no apology. The one to seize the day. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. With LLB. Live, love, be. Live, love, be. Be who you know you can be. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. Angostura, lemon, lime, and bitters. Live, love, be.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tilly the wall with a low reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Delia Walwyn, people you can trust.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic, and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world. Whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous, you can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air. We get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises, telephone number 466-9595.
Welcome back to Voices here on Win FM. It's a nice sunny Tuesday afternoon here in Bastille. We'll continue with the program, but first let's acknowledge our partner, Essel Hosfers and Company, and we'll come right back to the discussions here on Voices.
It's the Houseware Sale of the Year at Horseman's. Happening now at Horseman's Building and Nevis Centers. It's the biggest houseware sale of the year. Yes, come to Horseman's Building and Nevis Centers and get 25% off all houseware items, 25% off on blenders, pots and pans, small appliances, openers, bread makers, deep fryers, electric heaters, irons, airbeds, shower caddy, bowls, frying pans, bathroom wares such as trash cans, toilet paper holders, toilet bowl brush, plus brooms, mops, sponges, and much, much more. It's the Houseware Sale of the Year at Horseman's Building and Nevis Center. 25% off on all housewares happening now. Sale ends August 31st. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
Welcome back to Voices here on Win FM. Like I said before I took the break, Jeremy Abel sitting in for the second half of the program. During the first segment, you heard a bit of reflection on the former Minister of Finance, Mr. Richard Keynes. You know, he did some good work, and for those who didn't know, based on the reflections, you can tell the impact he had on the people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And we also heard from Public Relations Officer at the National Emergency Management Agency, Vesta Southwell, about preparations and what should be done for the upcoming, well, we're in the hurricane season. But we'll go to the phone lines and take this caller. Caller, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Abel.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
I'm well, and you?
And I hear giving God thanks. Every day is a good day, you know. When you people there out there said, oh yes, since I can't see it. You announce it, I believe it. You are my eyes, eh? Now I want to send condolences to two persons, Mr. Richard Keynes and Omax Gardner. You know, interestingly, I think it's on the last week or week before when I was on the show with you. Some topic we were discussing. And I usually come in and give the information, you know, the scientific, just the facts. And when I hung up from you, my phone rang. And on the phone was Richard Keynes. And, you know, I could barely hear him. They saying, Miss Henry, this is Richard Keynes. So I kept telling him, you know, I can't hear you, you know. But his daughter was there and she was trying to help him, you know. So I even said, you don't have a landline. I said, if you go on the landline, I might hear you better. The daughter turned up the volume, you know. And so he said, Miss Henry, I know you understand these things, you know, you must keep teaching the people them. And I heard he was sick, you know, but when I heard he had passed, I said, well, boy, well, he was a man to deal with, you know. It's a pity, and I hope Dr. Timothy Harris learned something from him. Because as the Minister of Finance under the PAM NRP administration, you didn't have this lot of runaway spending as you like. He managed, just like how we had his business, he knew you couldn't just run up deficit after deficit. And as for government vehicles, they used to call him Tekweki Minister, Tekweki. If you were abusing the government vehicle, and he met you anyway, he make you pack it up, you know. You know, some of them does be government vehicle in their own time, doing their own business, and even in the police vehicle, I mean, they're crashing them. They would have to pay for it. He managed well. And that is what the country needs. Now, to Omax Gardner, well, we weren't great friends, really. You know, I knew him in my professional life. But my husband used to do work for him. Is then, one day after my husband passed, my husband was painting, because my husband was a builder. And he met me and he was telling me, Mrs. Henry, condolences and story. And he said, I didn't even know he was an Antiguan. So he telling me, yes, man, I know your husband, people, and I live near the estate, the family estate. I was living near it, And after that, he would wave to me whenever he see me. And I was shocked. But I know life is short, eh? And it is important, Abel, as young as you are, while you're living, make sure you do good. Not good in the sense of good for people to call you good, but you must have personal integrity. This is what people need. So when people call your name, it means something. It must mean something. I remember when he came and he built up the accounting thing, and today he has a big business. That is, we talk about black men who are successful. That is true. Richard Keynes was highly successful and very generous. He adopted the village school, the school I went to. Some of us have, and we're stingy with it. You hear all the COVID thing, they won't give a penny. Darling, the day before your body reach the morgue, your relatives will be fighting for it, eh? So you as well give out some now. Some of your politicians start to share now. Your relatives going to be fighting before you reach the cemetery. So I want to send condolences to the family of Richard Keynes. I know his daughter. Well, I know all his children. All of them. I thought Scott and Lisa work with us. I know Inez and I know the other children. Lovely children. So I'm encouraging our people listening. What will people say about you when you pass? What will people say? Would you have added anything to this country? What do people say about you? Only negative things to all the young people. What would people say about you? You're not living to please people, but there must be something in your life that must add to the country. And once again, I want to express my condolences to the two persons, and above all, make sure your heart right with God. Ask Gregory, it's either heaven or hell, Whether you believe it or you don't believe it, it don't make a heap of difference. After that is judgment. So, when we live and we fall the belly down here, remember God. Remember God. All right then, thank you.
All right, thanks, caller. Well, she's reflecting on two stalwarts who would have passed during the course of this week. I always have one saying, recognize somebody while they're here before they would have departed. Just some news for those before we continue with the program. Yes, the Federation is currently under a tropical storm watch. Let me get that correct for you. Sorry. Yes, the Federation is currently under tropical storm warning. That is, the government of Antigua and Barbuda has issued a tropical storm warning for Antigua and Barbuda, the British Virgin Islands, Montserrat, St. Kitts, and Nevis. What does that mean? A tropical storm warning means that the tropical storm conditions are expected somewhere within the warning area within the next 36 hours. As at 11 a.m., the disturbance was centered near latitude 13.8 degrees north, longitude 53.7 west. The system is moving towards the west near 23 miles per hour, and this general motion should continue during the next few days. On the forecast track, the system is forecast to move through the Leeward Islands on Wednesday and near or over the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico Wednesday night, and near or over Hispaniola on Thursday. So that's a bit of what we are looking at in terms of the tropical disturbance that's out in the sea that's expected here anytime within the next day or two. So they're saying a lot of rainfall can be expected as the tropical storm passes over the Leeward Islands. But yes, and some disappointing news for you sports fans out there. Yes, the West Indies lost the Test match, so they lost the series this morning. You know, they lost by over 200 runs. So that's some disappointing news. But we continue here on Voices. During the second half of the program, we'll have some reflection in terms of Owen Arthur. We'll hear a bit of what Mia Motley did in terms of reflecting on him. And then we'll also hear, you would have heard a bit of it in the headline news, that there has been some addition, or changes rather, to the calendar of activities for the Culturama. But before we do that, we'll go to the phone lines and hear from this caller. Caller, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm just calling to convey my condolences to Richard Kane's family and to the PAM party, a great stalwart to the PAM party and to the country. And let me give my dear brother in Christ, Munstrat, a shout out, because I haven't heard him in a long time. I was listening, I think was yesterday or whatever day it was, and I heard his voice. And Munstrat, it's very good to hear your voice. And may God continue to bless you. And to the people of Connery, good afternoon, Connery. Love you guys. Culture, good afternoon. Have a blessed day, everyone.
Caller, just a quick question before you go. I was making this point before you call. I think you probably heard it. What more can we do to recognize the work that a lot of these former government officials or those national heroes, what more can we do to recognize the work these people would have done before they depart?
But we always say give us the flowers while we are alive, and that's the thing about man. It's only when somebody passed, that's when we want to acknowledge them. There's a lot of people that we have around, and even as on the natural, when we lose our family members, our loved ones, only when they die you hear grandma was so kind, grandma was so this, or mama was that. Why not give them their flowers while they're alive? And as a country, we shouldn't wait till when somebody dies to want to recognize them. On regular basis, you have events. There is people you can just honor. Honor them with a plaque. Honor them with a word. Just a regular honor. Just make it a duty to say, I acknowledge you. I recognize your contribution to the country, and we give you thanks. It don't take much. Sometimes people think that you have to have this big grandiose thing all the time for everything. No, just a kind word goes a long way, and a little appreciation goes a long way. So let us not wait till when somebody dies to let them know, oh, I did appreciate that person. Show appreciation while they're alive. Mr. Keynes was an asset to St. Kitts, and he was a stalwart in the PAM politics era. So I think he should be honored for the work that he done for the people of the country, especially the young people. You see pictures where he's with the young people. He was their mentor. So I pray that he will be honored, given that federal honor that he deserves. You have a blessed day.
Thank you, caller. Well, yes, I was making the point that we should continue to recognize people while they're here before they depart. We hear all the glowing tributes when somebody would have departed, but I think you should give Jack his jacket and Jane her skirt. You know, when they're here, so they can feel welcome, they can feel remembered before they go. But yes. Well, right now we'll acknowledge our partner, SL Hosford and Company, and we'll come right back.